30 miles from the outskirts of
Fighting a conventional war unconventionally seemed at first to work.
Scenes of free Iraqis celebrating in the streets, riding American tanks, tearing down the statues of Saddam Hussein in the center of Baghdad are breathtaking.
On September the 11th, 2001, our freedom and way of life came under attack by brutal enemies who killed nearly 3,000 innocent Americans.
On the night of 9/11, the CIA had planned a secret war abroad.
And since September the 11th, we've been on the offensive against the terrorists plotting within our borders.
At home, another front had been opened. The battle to protect the American homeland.
We had to move from proving what happened to preventing something from happening because the costs that came with a mass destruction event like 9/11, we can't allow that.
The president asked the nation's largest and most secret intelligence agency to step forward.
A couple weeks into the war, we were asked, is there anything more we can do to defend the homeland?
At that time, Michael Hayden ran the National Security Agency, the NSA.
We began a conversation with the vice president and then with the president, saying that here are some additional things we could do, but we cannot do them because we do not currently have authorities to do them. That was the basis of the evolution of what became the terrorist surveillance program.
The NSA created a global electronic dragnet, capable of reaching into America's communication networks, capturing 1.7 billion intercepts every day.
The National Security Agency has a huge vacuum cleaner around the world, and it is sucking down information from computer networks, from radios, from telephone calls, all over the world. So much information that no human being could ever go through it on a daily basis.
Other basic challenge is in sorting through the huge volume of information. The analogy is not so much a needle in a haystack, it's a needle in a stack of needles.
But finding the exact needle would take manpower, lots of it, and in a hurry. The NSA turned to a new force in the covert war, private contractors.
You had this boom in the corporate intelligence world as well. Companies like CACI, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, just all the old-fashioned industrial, we're building ships and submarines type corporations quickly moved into the intelligence and information space.
The NSA spent billions of dollars on more than 480 private companies. Michael Hayden led the effort in the days right after 9/11.
I did it at NSA, George did it at CIA, we all did it. It was a way to go out there and to get these capabilities into the flow infinitely more quickly than you would have been able to do had you gone through the government personnel system.
In office parks near the NSA, thousands of private contractors, many making much more money than federal employees, helped digest data.
Well, have you actually looked at this building on a satellite map yet?
No.
It's gigantic. I mean, it's
In Vermont, a reporter and former defense analyst, William Arkin, spent years trying to track the post-9/11 growth of America's hidden intelligence world.
But it's a government organization. It shows up nowhere. It's in a pizza parlor. It looks like it's a cover address. There's no defense organization there. I'll have to go look at it, or you'll have to go look at it.
Okay.
Working with Dana Priest, the two would do what no one else had done: identify one by one the buildings and companies in what they called Top Secret America.
Defense Policy Analysis, the Defense Program Support, Asymmetric Warfare Group, Project 7, the Special Security Organization, CIA and FBI and NSA and all the other agencies. It took me about a year to complete a decent catalog of the government entities and corporate entities that work in this world.
All right, so can we just go over what you have?
Sure.
At the Washington Post, Priest and her team compiled what they found.
This is the pictures that I went up to that public parking lot and it was totally legal to be there.
For the rest of my life, I will never see the world the same way again, especially around Washington.
So had it not been for the leaves off the trees and at night, you would never see this thing.
And yet it's gigantic.
Yeah.
These buildings that they might only be 4 stories high, but they go down 10 stories. And there's a whole world down there, like shops and places to eat that you don't know about. That's just for them.
They had uncovered a new secret world that had grown up in the years after 9/11.
You could put the dots on the map. You had an alternative geography of the United States, a secret geography that is so important, that guides how this country keeps itself safe, and yet it is not revealed to the public, even though it may be next to your back door.
They didn't put it in one place. If they had, it would have been the size of the District of Columbia. What they did instead was scatter it around so it fits into the fabric of metropolitan Washington and on up into Baltimore, and it looks like commercial office space. Huge new bureaucracy that you can't really see.
While it's been a high-tech bonanza for the states, there are questions about its effectiveness.
You can look, if you're objective, at all of this money and all of this effort and say, what would have happened if we hadn't done that? And in almost every case, nothing would have happened.
One troubling example. At Christmas time in 2009, a young Nigerian boarded a plane from Amsterdam to Detroit. Somehow evading the security net, he was carrying a bomb in his underwear.
Tried to blow up more than 250 fellow passengers. What exactly went wrong?
He actually got to the point of triggering the device, which means at that point, the only thing that's going to stop that is what happened, is a technical failure or maybe a human failure.
There had been early warnings about Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib.
The kid had gone to Yemen for training. His father had gone to the American embassy to say, my son is now with Al-Qaeda. I think he may be a terrorist.
There are more questions than answers today.
There were no red flags raised.
But no one in Top Secret America had connected the dots.
The information on that person was buried in the 5,000 other pieces of information that the Counterterrorism Center gets every day.
Because the Nigerian guy's name was misspelled by one letter, he did not pop up. The little bits of data about him were not correlated. Those dots were not connected.
Google does it. If you mistype something on Google, it says, did you mean this? And despite spending all the billions of dollars on databases, that simple spell check, did you mean this kind of software wasn't operating.
And then, 5 months later, the Times Square bomber.
Be assured that the FBI and their partners in this process have all the tools and experience they need.
The Times Square bomber was a horrendously run operation. A bunch of vendors in Times Square said to the cops, there's a problem with this car.
Both those cases, it was not the intelligence agencies, it was private citizens. On the plane, it was a private citizen who jumped the guy. Times Square, it was a vendor saying something's wrong there, letting law enforcement authorities know it. So we were lucky, and because we have an alert citizenry.
Then the Boston Marathon.
Oh my God.
Two explosions near the finish line just a short while ago.
It looks increasingly like some sort of a terrorist attack in the city of
Boston. Mass casualty terror attack on American soil in a dozen years.
In the immediate aftermath, there were again questions about why Top Secret America had not prevented the bombing.
Did the FBI miss a chance to stop the bombings?
Was there a missed opportunity when a warning was perhaps given to the FBI at some
What, if anything, did they miss? And that's going to be heavily scrutinized.
The government asked the public for their help.
Today, we are enlisting the public's help to identify the two suspects. They are identified as Suspect 1 and Suspect 2. They appear to be
even though one of the suspects had been on the radar of America's intelligence agencies years before. The high-tech tools of Top Secret America never identified him as a danger.
We consider them to be armed and extremely dangerous. No one should approach them.
Just hours after the FBI plea for help, the suspects went on a violent rampage.
Gunfight on the streets of nearby Watertown left one suspect dead, suspect number 1.
There are police and SWAT vehicles streaming in that direction. And the overwhelming presence of law enforcement.
The hardware of Top Secret America rolled out in hot pursuit.
Police have told people to stay home with the windows.
Police are going door to door looking for the remaining bombing suspects.
That suspect number 2 has been cornered in the backyard of a home.
We heard police talking about he's in a boat. He's in a boat.
Once again, it was only after a tip from an observant citizen that police finally got their man.
Apparently, a woman called in a report of blood in a backyard leading to a boat.
She called authorities. That led them to this scene.
The suspect's in custody. Nobody's come in the perimeter. It's still a hot scene.
In the wake of the Boston bombing, the question remains, has Top Secret America made us any safer?
When something happens, it's very important that we as a society not panic the way we did after 9/11. And we all panicked. And we all engaged in sort of wretched excess. More is good, a hell of a lot more can be bad.